I don't know what it's doing.
This is recording. Hello, this is Michael Pierce, and we are going to observe the ENFJ in his natural habitat. Well, I guess I shouldn't say natural habitat. This is
all ENFJs don't have this much hair. So
I don't know about that actually. Well, it doesn't really matter. So here, I just want to record this for posterity. Now, just so you understand, we're playing Magic. And this is this little counter. So I'm on the left.
You see, he has more life than me.
Yes, I have more life. And this has been the situation for the past 7 turns. I have not been able to get rid of the last 5. I have no hand. I have plenty of mana, but no hand. And I just want to lay this down. Now he's summoned a Chasm Skulker. See, look at that. See, so now I just... Oh, whoops.
This is based on the ENFJ type, right?
Yes, in fact, that's why I'm recording it for well, it's a manifestation of it. So I just want to, here, I'm going to set this. But listen, here's what happened. Here's what happened. So, within like 3 turns, I had him at 5 life.
It was 4 turns, I think.
4 turns? Okay.
You were knocking me with a creature that had 4 damage.
Yeah, I had a creature that I'd built up, a Johnny's Pride mate.
I got in a little bit of life, but not very much.
Yeah, and then I knocked you down to 5, and you were like freaking out. And by the way, this is a pattern. This happens.
This doesn't happen in normal games. In a multiplayer game, it happens all the time.
But what happens all the time is we're playing Magic. And something happens. Is this still filming? Okay, cool. Something happens, and he loses his mind. He is terrified, and I think he's genuinely terrified, which is fascinating. And he freaks out, and he's like, pity me, because I'm so weak. Look, I've just pulled out an 8/8 creature. It's not that bad. Look, it's not terrible.
I'm an ENFJ boy.
So everybody, this is Brigham. He is an ENFJ. And just a couple things I want to note about Brigham. He has a channel called Be Flummy, and I'll link it in the description. Me and Brigham have been friends for a long time, and we have played several D&D games together with him as the Dungeon Master, and you can find those on his channel. I'll link those in the description below. We recently did one with 2 other fellows who do D&D channels, and that'll probably be the first one that I link in the description, but you'll just have to click on them and find out or something. But yeah, totally check those out because it was a fun time doing them, and Brigham's a good DM, so yeah, he is. Anyway. But he agreed, and so part of what I'm thinking of doing with this is, because Brigham is not overly familiar with Jungian typology.
No.
Which is precisely why I think this is interesting as an interview, because he
has no idea what I'm talking about, or you're talking about.
Yeah, well, because I won't be specifically referencing MBTI in the interview, but I believe that he is an ENFJ. That's my prognosis, if you want to call it that. But actually, the first thing is, do you want to share anything about yourself, just generally, before I ask questions?
I don't know. I'm quirky, I guess. I like stories. That's why I like playing D&D. My favorite part of stories is characters. I'm now just spouting off random stuff. I like small groups of people, not large groups, and not just like one person. I like small groups.
As has been demonstrated by our DM experiences. Tell me about D&D. What do you like about D&D? What have been your experiences?
D&D is like an easier way to write a book. It's a book for a small group of people. There's different styles of D&D. There is a very cliche style of D&D that viewers would probably be aware of, and that is crazy people sitting in someone's basement and rolling dice for everything and just slaying stuff. which is a boring kind of D&D. But stories, yeah, that's the main reason I liked D&D. Stories, and it was an easy way to spend a lot of time with people. I like spending time with people, I guess is the right way to put it. But it's sometimes hard to find an excuse to spend like a lot of time with a group of people, you know. And D&D is a nice way because it's interactive, and you get to sort of use your brain a lot. But at the same time, you're hanging out. It's kind of a weird blend between almost working and not.
Excuse me. You can decline this next question,
Okay.
but would you like to talk about our first D&D campaign that we did? That was so much fun.
Sure, we can talk about the first D&D
You don't
campaign.
have to, because I know that you're kind of embarrassed. I don't know why. It was magnificent.
Sense that I'm embarrassed
No,
over
it does.
because I've grown a bit. But yeah, the first D&D campaign I played with Michael was with a few other people. Who will remain nameless and anonymous for their own sakes. But
I might end up interviewing some of them on this channel as well, so
yeah,
anyway.
they can pipe up if they want to admit to being part of this chaos. The game was kind of, it was when I was new to D&D, and it's like opening, it was like D&D, when I first got out, I was playing 3.5. There was a lot of stuff. It was like opening a box of chocolates, and you just wanted to try every one, you know. And so I tried to stick just about everything I could into that game. And that's why it somehow made a little bit of sense, but at the same time also didn't. And I was incorporating sort of non-D&D ideas that I had. Like, I think there was basically mech armor in the last session.
Yeah, that was like the final boss, I think.
That was the final boss,
It was someone in a giant mech suit. And
powered by radioactive magic rods.
You pulled, I think that's a trope where like you set it up as a fantasy world, but then you show, but it actually obeys the same laws that we're used to, because they found radioactivity. What is this magic?
They have nuclear power too.
It was kind of fun figuring that out, like that moment, and I thought it was fun. And then we figured out we could
blow things up with it.
We could use nuclear rods to create mini nuclear explosions. It
was entertaining,
and then,
to say the least.
And then anyway,
it was interesting though. Yeah, it was a bit of chaos. We were definitely playing with a bunch of people who were good at flying off the seat of their pants. Michael Pierce.
I ran away from the group because I felt that was what my character would do in that situation.
A lot of interesting things happened in that game because a lot of people were good at improvising, and also because I was just throwing whatever fancied me at the moment at them. I think most of the story revolved around the laboratories of an insane scientist who had multiple personalities. Who died? Yeah, that was tragic.
Yes. I know this is supposed to be an interview with Brigham, but I'd like to chime in here really quick. That so Brigham, tell me about planning for D&D sessions.
Oh, that has changed a lot over the years. When I first started playing D&D, planning was it was big because I was trying to plan for every single thing that the players could possibly do, which doesn't work. Someone's going to stab an NPC you care about quickly. That was not a reference to you, Michael. That was a mistake. But as it's come along, it's sort of been the best D&D planning that I have is usually where I'm not playing D&D every week. It's about every month, and so I have a lot of time just to think about sort of the big things that I want to happen, and then I take like an hour or two one night right before the game and type out some of the big things that I want. Most importantly, the math-based things, because if you don't have the math, the game's gonna kind of suck. And then it's sort of like having a bunch of dots, and you kind of let the players connect them whatever way they want. Sometimes it's, you know, a straight line, other times it's squiggly, and other times it like goes over here and then comes back. But as long as you hit the dots, that's the main goal, of keeping the game moving. Which actually, that was kind of tragic because I had gotten so used to people taking time between the dots. I started playing in a group where they played very differently than I was used to. And their style was basically, we just run across the dots as fast as I can. So I got used to having like 4 or 5 dots. When I started playing, I guess if you put it down, I had like millions of dots because I was trying to like hit all these little tiny things. But yeah, so they would run through everything that I had super quick, and I had to like fumble around for things for them to do. It was interesting.
I'm trying to think of which question I want to ask first next. So once again, you can decline any of these questions, obviously, but
It's over.
Talk about the Provokers.
The Provokers. I am a fanboy for. There's no other way to describe it.
No.
There's a really great D&D group online. It's ran by Matt Click at A Fistful of Dice. That's his YouTube channel, and it was one of the things that helped me learn how to play D&D. I guess is the way to put it. Because as a new DM, what I do with a lot of things is when I get an idea for something new, whether it's playing D&D or it's robotic limbs or people having seizures. I do weird things in my free time. But I go and I watch as many YouTube videos about it as I can. That's usually what happens. And so I ran into the Provokers, and they sort of became the model of how I wanted to run D&D games. And they also they're just a great story, and I loved just about everything they've done. And so I periodically rant to Michael about them.
Yes.
And talk for long hours. I tend to get stuck on ideas, and no matter how much I express them, I want to express them again.
Which leads to our next point. Would you like to discuss for the audience the ending of Samurai Jack season 5? Okay, because that was another. You don't have to answer that. I'm asking that because it's another example of which I understand and can relate to. Something like that happening and it being like I have to discuss this to.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna spoil the ending.
Oh yeah, that's true.
In case, but. Let's say there's an unexpected or unwanted ending that was in Samurai Jack, the final season. I loved that. There was only 10 episodes, I think, and I loved a lot of the things they did. I loved the characters. Like I said, those are usually my favorite, and I loved the interactions they had. But yeah, the ending, I just wanted to cry. Like, I couldn't cry. It was the saddest thing ever. I watched it with my sister. I booked her for like the next 3 days.
His sister's an INTJ, by the way, and on one occasion I call up his sister to talk with her, and then she happened to mention that. So has Brigham talked with you about Samurai Jack season 5? And I'm like, oh no, why did he hate it? Because I had seen it too, and instantly in the background I could hear Brigham. He's like, Samurai Jack season 5, is that Michael on the phone? Give me the phone, I need to talk to him. And there was like a little scuffle and like, ow, and Eliza laughing, and then had to leave the apartment or something.
Okay, to be fair, I did jump at her, but I specifically aimed not to land anywhere near her. Well, okay, near her, but not like on top of her. But yeah, I guess I deserved being kicked in that situation.
Anyway,
it was a little bit of an extremist reaction.
Oh, your siblings, it's fun. What was the other thing?
My sister was not as bothered by the ending as I was.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have the same attachment to it, but that is. So actually, it would be interesting because the audience knows that she is an INTJ. I guess describe your interaction a bit with her, like as much as you feel like.
I kind of pester her sometimes. It's probably the wrong way to put it. You know, it's a sibling. I do this to everyone, I guess. It's not even really a sibling thing. This probably happens more to my siblings because I'm used to them. But you know, you like sneak up behind them and scare them. The things like that. You know, you do funny things, or you I just like say random things or quote random. Yeah, she probably gets annoyed by how much I quote movies in front of her. You know, I've watched like an episode of something that I liked, and I just start quoting it nonstop in front of her. But then she'll come to me with random things like the fact that the genetics for sibling eye color in some movie does not accurately match up with the way the DNA should run.
That is not a joke, by the way.
No, that is not a joke.
She has charts and things she's created.
You find her in her room, like on her bed with a calculator, mapping out genomes for dragons or something. Like it's interesting, and
because it's all made up. It's fantasy.
I can't wrap my head around sometimes just like some of these details that she cares about so much. These things like, you know, I don't know anyone else who maps out eye color. Just yeah. Anyways, but and then she can't understand some of my deep emotional attachment to some things. I was reading her favorite book series, and it's the Stormlight Archives, and I was reading the first book, which is such a long book. But what was it? It was switching between two characters, and one of them I honestly did not care for their problems at all, because one of them was like dying somewhere, and the other one was like trying to convince someone of something. And so it's like I'd rather hear a lot more about the person who's dying, because he's like some dramatic, I don't want to spoil anything, but like a bunch of dramatic stuff had happened to him, and some of his thought process I really like, and the other person was just like trying to convince someone of something stupid. It was boring. But she didn't understand why I was so bothered that they kept flipping between these two people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And this I find very interesting. Because I have DM'd as well on a few occasions, and Brigham was a player in one of those campaigns with an ENFP, and though they were the only two characters because it was sort of an experiment. But I also did another. I've done 3 or 4 campaigns. They've all been with like smaller groups of people. But anyway, they all honestly have had similar themes. And Brigham, could you contrast our DM styles?
I'm very good at contrasting our DM styles for some reason.
It's fascinating to me.
Fascinating. So my tendency when I'm DMing is to overplan. It is to attempt to control the players, which is a big no-no. If anyone plays D&D out there, controlling the players, that's the one thing they have is control over their characters, and I would happily take that away from them, so they don't screw things up too bad and mess up my presentation of my story. I've learned to cope with that a little bit. Michael's preferred DMing style is no plan at all.
Now, that's not quite true. I go in with a plan, it's just the plan completely falls apart within like the moment that you guys make a decision that I didn't have in mind.
His plan is a piece of paper going up against the players, which is a shotgun.
And I happily welcome the shotgun because, anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting playing your games. How have I described them in the past? It's like walking through a dream. It makes complete sense until you're done, and then you look back and it's like, how did that all work? It like all fits somehow. The problem is I couldn't see probably the reason it made so much sense is I couldn't see the thought process for it. I bet if I could see the thought process, I would have made less sense of it, because it just happened so fluently was the thing. I remember did you plan to put my donkey in like the porcelain mask and goo thing? I don't remember that, or was that just like,
oh yeah,
I kept saying I want my donkey because I had bought a donkey. I had paid good money for that donkey.
And then the donkey disappeared.
And the donkey disappeared, and I couldn't find my donkey. And I don't know if you planned that or if...
No.
Yeah, so that's one of those things where it's
that session,
I just complained about my donkey, so I feel like that was the session that went like haywire the most. But I complained so much about my donkey, and then you were like, oh, he could be a kidnapped creature for this evil demon lord thingy, Jinn.
They were genies.
And then I killed my donkey because it was evil.
And I don't even remember that, but it's totally.
I remember killing.
It's totally a part of that. Like the whole. What was it? He was trapped in a porcelain mask, and
yeah, you had a whole bunch of these creatures that had like porcelain masks on and were like covered in black goo or something.
Yeah.
And we came into a room and found my donkey there, and then the djinn that had done it or whatever, like. Came in. I really liked the banter. You were really good at the banter between the bad guy and mostly the ENFP?
ENFP.
Yeah, ENFP. Anonymous. Okay. But the ENFP, there was great banter that went between the bad guy and the ENFP while I was killing my donkey in the background.
I remember
and like
this.
Crying.
Yeah.
I think I named my donkey. That was a mistake. You don't name your donkeys in D&D games, guys.
Now, see, I consider the fact that you didn't just get your donkey back earlier on a mistake on my part. I would have rather...
I was happy with the donkey dying. I kind of liked it.
Oh, okay. Because you like to make your characters suffer.
I like to make my character... One of my problems with my characters that I make when I play D&D is I already want them to be like a complete story when I'm playing. I don't like it, like experiencing, like trying to go through it and make my character something as I go along. It's it's almost like I want to be playing the aftermath of a character, and so everything's already set in stone and there's no change, which I've learned is bad. And so they don't really have like a lot of development usually. Yeah, no, it's weird. I have a strange like attachment, but also like not attachment with suffering. Like suffering has to be done right, but that's like the best part of stories is when people suffer. That's gonna make me seem like a psychopath, but
no.
But you know that's why you watch and you listen to stories. No one ever liked a happy story. Those are stupid. You know, it's the sort of I'm known in my D&D games. I have a tendency to be notorious. I don't think with you. That was before I really started doing this. I went haywire, kind of. I have a player who's cried multiple times in games.
Oh no.
Okay, they're a very emotional person in general.
Yes.
But they were like so caught up in the emotional moment. You know, I did do things like they had like an archery mentor or whatever, and they come back and the mentor had like a horrible accident that was caused by the villain, and now they're like the bones are messed up and they're shooting arms, so they can't fire a bow ever again. But they really want to, and so when they first meet him, they come into his like room or whatever, and he's like trying to shoot a bow, but he's like completely screwing up and you know can't do it. And he was like a really great archer, and it was such a good moment. Yeah, she cried.
Which means that you were effective.
That means I was effective
in the emotional creation of the moment.
Yeah, I was that.
Yes.
I tend to think of things in sort of like video clip moments, and that was one. Was the particularly because the character's mother was there. It was great because you heard like you know an arrow shooting on the inside, and her mother was like, "Oh no, not again," and runs inside, and it was just a great like short little clip. I don't know what to do after the little clip's over, but yeah, it was that That was one of my favorite. I have a lot of favorite moments playing D&D, but that was one of my greatest accomplishments. It just happened to co-align with player crying.
Yeah. Well, they thought that it was good too. So, I'm trying to think of what.
But yeah, suffering is a good thing.
Yes.
Man, if we could suffer as much as the characters we loved, we'd be interesting people.
That's great.
I mean, like nowadays,
that's a great quote.
People are like I get upset when I can't even suffer properly when I'm trying to fly back here. Like I'm panicking and like you think about the sort of people who like are in movies and stuff like that. It's like they wouldn't worry about a flight because they've been through so much and they've handled it like a boss. Mm-hmm. We'd be very interesting people if we could suffer like our heroes. Yeah.
You don't have to answer this question, but why did you let your hair grow out? Because I think that is an interesting point.
That was a whim. I was like, wonder what I would look like with a man bun. That was about it. There was not much more thought process than that.
Oh, okay.
It was, what would I look like with a man bun?
Let's find out.
Hey, Mom. Do you think I would look good with a man bun? What are you talking about, Brigham? Yep, I'm growing my hair out.
Oh. Okay.
No, it wasn't like that. But it was, yeah, it was just sort of like, I might look cool in a man bun. Do I have any reason not to let my hair grow out? Not really. Grow my hair out. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Shows that I don't really care about my hair very much and what it particularly looks like. Except for on church, then it's nice and combed and sleek and looks like someone's put way too much product into it because I don't know how to do my hair properly. But
I didn't even think about that because I've never seen you in church with this hair.
I feel like I look older at church because I literally just slick the whole thing back. Probably look like a movie villain or something. If I had an eye patch, I would. Movie villains have eye patches.
Except Nick Fury. Well, he's arguably an anti-hero.
He's the DM of a D&D game.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. That's exactly what it is.
Which the DM is the player's worst enemy. Yes. Because they make them cry in the middle of gaming sessions.
Yes, which he did in the first Avengers movie. He fabricated.
Yeah.
The story to get them to go fight the
He's
final
actually
boss.
the current leader of Hydra. That's
Wait, really?
I don't know. I'm making this
maybe.
up.
Oh, well, I mean, as the DM, yes.
Yeah, his goal is to literally just make enough conflict in the world that people forget about petty things and just worry about whether or not they're going to die tomorrow.
That's awful. That's horrifying. Is that your utopia, Brigham?
That's my utopia.
Is that your...
That's what I want.
That's what you secretly want. Oh, gee. Just for the second part of the interview, talk about Magic the Gathering. Because that's another thing that we've played that a lot. With the similar group of people.
It's interesting how different people play Magic. It's very interesting. Magic was something that was almost a whim too, because I'd played it before, and I guess I thought more about that one. I guess I had plenty of time to think about my hair, but with Magic it was just like, I've seen people have fun with this. I know a few people who play Magic. What the heck? I'll buy a bunch of cards and. I've actually come to like it a lot. I guess it's mostly because there's strategy before and after you play the game. Because you have to build your deck and stuff like that. And I definitely like how fluent it is, how many different things you can do with it. And it's not just a game of who can play it the best. It's also a game of who can build their deck the best, which is why my brother always wins. But no.
Your INTJ sister.
INTJ sister does not like playing a lot of Magic. She has one deck that she has honed to absolute destruction, except for that one time. But yeah, she has one deck that she's honed to stampede and murder, and it's all about taking little things and making them absolute nightmares. And she only likes playing 1 or 2 games and then she's done. But yeah, the ENFP, she doesn't have a lot of focus to her deck sometimes, which is something that I struggle with too. My decks are kind of, I have a lot of good ideas, but you have to, in order to be successful, you gotta have to pick one and make your deck around that one single point. But yeah, so my problem is my decks are sometimes unfocused because I, sort of whimsically, I like this card because it does this, but it doesn't quite fit in the deck. But I'll put it in there anyways, and then it's like, it doesn't help me ever because it doesn't fit with the deck. And then when I play, I've apparently been notorious for, I talk nonstop, I complain about the enemy's cards, and my own cards not being good enough, which is most of the time true. And then when I am winning, I am super nervous that I'm about to be dethroned. I don't know why that happens. It's like a coping mechanism for my imminent destruction. I just don't know how to suffer enough, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like you're undergoing enormous amounts of suffering. Because when you're losing, you're like, I'm losing, and when you're winning, you're like, this can't last very long.
This can't last very long. There's no way I'm gonna pull this off.
And then when you do win, you deny it.
I deny it. It was the next fluke. Day. It was an accident.
You deny it. You say it was a fluke, or you.
It didn't mean to happen.
You don't remember. See, okay, so
it wasn't my fault. It was an accident.
He would play Magic with my INTP father, who I've mentioned in a few videos, as he's very, very INTP. So actually, talk about that really quick. Talk about my dad playing Magic with him.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun playing Magic with him.
You guys have good banter.
We have good banter.
I actually would say you have better banter than me and you.
And it's probably because he's very good at slinging, sort of slinging the mud.
Yes, and I don't do that. I don't have the heart for it.
I very quickly take up the challenge, even though I'm still worried to death, and I constantly complain about whatever the heck he has. But I do take the opportunity to sort of mirror his own, not his style of speaking, but sort of the way that he likes to talk about things when he's playing Magic. I tend to know the rules better than him, which sometimes works to my advantage. It was interesting because he would have a deck that I kind of liked. He would have a good idea for a deck, and then I would, it's like a new deck. It hasn't been tested before. He kind of threw it together because he liked the idea, and then my machine that I've crafted over years of painstakingly fighting him goes up against it and he loses. And he's like, nope, scrap the whole thing. Very quickly. I don't think his decks ever stayed the same. They were very constantly, he never had decks where he was like, this is my deck that I'm known for. He was very quick to make something new, and it made it very unpredictable to play against him. Because I couldn't rely on, oh, he's known for this deck or whatever, because he would never keep pretend. Even I can pretend.
Excuse me.
I don't know. A perfect deck is one that can actually beat Michael. But
So actually, what is it like playing against me? Because we'll probably play after this interview.
Yeah, playing against you. Last night was probably not a good barometer because I was testing some things.
Yeah.
Maybe I should ask what it's like playing against me. Because your decks, I feel like they tend to be pretty straightforward most of the time. I know what's happening. You tend not to have as many, and your dad was not known for this either, but as many surprises. Which I feel like I'm probably a little bit more known for, of going,
yes.
hello! no, I exist.
You have lots of tricks up your
Tricks.
sleeve.
That's why I like
You
blue.
have neat cards.
Neat cards. The cards that go... Or, yeah, in multiplayer games, I feel like I'm probably everyone's worst nightmare in a multiplayer game. Because...
Oh, playing against you in multiplayer is fascinating.
No, it's so funny because multiplayer games are political, right? You know,
Yes.
that's half of the game. Even if you have a good deck, you know, Eliza's deck is great, but she's never won a multiplayer game because she becomes a terrifying nightmare and everyone kills her. You know, it's survival of the fittest. We're talking about political multiplayer games. My decks usually are slow because their strategies are long and complex, which means in a multiplayer game, in a string of multiplayer games, the first game, I sometimes win. Because people forget about me, because I don't look bad until they decide to look over at that end of the table and I have amassed a small army of chaos. And they've weakened each other enough that I can just come up and be the cleanup crew. And then the next game I lose immediately because they don't trust me and so they just shoot me at the beginning. When I don't have enough forces to survive. And then the next game, they tend to forget about me, and I might have a chance of winning because it's sort of an on and off. It's every other game. And people are not quite sure what to do about me because of that. It's a sort of, Brigham's not a threat. Okay, Brigham's a threat. Brigham's not a threat. Yeah, okay, Brigham's a threat. We get rid of him now. You know, it's interesting, and of course it's a train wreck for my nerves because I'm trying to plot. It's like trying to overthrow like the king of some country in a multiplayer game, and you're like by yourself, and you're like, all right, I've got this friend, I got this friend. Here's the plan. If anything goes wrong, we're all dead. And yeah, it's got to be a lot of fun playing multiplayer with me.
It is always fun playing multiplayer with you. So just so that I can describe playing against Brigham, it is always interesting because he knows the rules very well, and he has therefore he knows how to wield very interesting. I want to even say, oh my gosh, you're actually doing it.
I had to. You're talking.
Yes, I am talking. So
This is what
strange voice in the background. But
focus. It's a serious interview.
I can't even remember what I was saying. Yes, this is a serious.
I tend to wield.
Oh yeah, you wield these more complex weapons.
Oh, I do.
And you have little like loops and strategies that you pull out that once you get them working, they're really, really nasty.
I put out little carrots all over the place and lots of little traps.
It's
and
like
I wait
you
for the
create
bunnies to
all
come.
kinds of little mini games that I then have to play. Now, obviously, I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who is very straightforward, as you said. I think that's very accurate, actually.
Your decks are very... It's very simple to go, I am losing or I am winning against your decks because they tend not to have...
They'll have one mechanic.
They have one mechanic and they tend not to have any... You don't have ever very many instants or sorceries that you can very quickly... I don't like them either a lot of the time because I don't like how they don't last forever. That's a lot of things that I sometimes get in trouble with my decks is I want it to last forever. I once made a deck that would recycle itself so it could literally play
I remember that
forever.
deck.
It lost terribly because that's a terrible idea in a Magic game. And I recycled it for parts. But your decks definitely are a lot more cleaner, which means they usually come out faster. My decks are a lot more grimier with little pokey things that people don't like, and
I
also tend to get on people's bad sides. Like I like the kind of decks that are like mill decks, that are the sort of things that people just don't like playing against.
And you have done mill decks. And that's the exact kind of thing. Like you know, or you figure out how to play several cards because you figured out this little cycle that you can create. Yeah, this little feedback loop that you can create on the field that will then, once you get it working, it's just a matter of kind of getting everything out to get it working. And for me, it's like I honestly tend to think more in like Like, probably the deck that has continued to last is I like the Convoke strategy. That's where I can
just
I have
put
methods.
creatures out.
Yeah. Well, I have methods to put out lots and lots of little creatures, and then I can use those as mana to summon giant creatures.
Yep.
Because I just like having lots of creatures, and then I can just brute force.
Yeah, very simple. But
that doesn't work when you are milling me or have enough flying
control
creatures.
Deck. No, it's
or that
deck.
control deck.
That was the first control deck I've ever made. That was so much fun.
I mean, it was amazing, but it was so frustrating. Like, I was bringing out my giant creatures, and you were like, negate. And, like, it was worse, too, because at the beginning it was like, I can't do anything. Like, and you had all these cards in your hand, and then suddenly something clicked, and you were like, I can use this card.
I got the one piece of mana I needed to begin the waterfall.
Yeah, and you won that game.
Yeah, that was a close one.
It was amazing. Final question is, tell me about Martin Luther King Jr. Because according to IDR Labs, also known as CelebrityTypes.com, that's what they used to be called, Martin Luther King Jr. is like a paragon ENFJ. So, and you rather liked his Birmingham address.
Yeah, so in one of my college classes, I had to read a letter from Birmingham jail. And there wasn't a lot of readings that I really liked in that class. But a letter from Birmingham jail just made so much sense, and I just loved the way he talked in it. It was one of those things with like Henry V. I just loved the way partly I loved the way it was written and some of the ideas in it. And I hadn't super liked, I mean, it's like, who doesn't like Martin Luther King? But, you know,
you'd be surprised, unfortunately. But, well, let's not get off on that.
Nazis! Okay, sorry.
Oh, no!
Let's not bring this into a political anything. But most sensible people are appreciative of Martin Luther King.
See, it's funny because I don't know personally, but I know anyway. I'm keeping this all in because it's perfect examples.
Sensible people are a fan of Martin Luther King, and I think that doesn't fit though because I'm not a sensible person. But anyways, Martin Luther King,
more than you think.
I just loved his style of leadership. I mean, obviously he was like. It would be so tempting to just want to like start burning stuff. That's the sort of thing that is like most inspiring about Martin Luther King is, if I was in his position, yeah, I'd probably be an extremist, terrorist. This is not looking good for me. Careful what you put on YouTube. But the point is, it would be very easy to get very angry and upset and do something rash. Martin Luther King, genius idea. Passive protest. That's such an amazing, emotional idea. I guess it's been used before, but not very often. And I mean, obviously, it was super effective, especially in the day of the camera. That's mostly what made it so effective. Is you'd have reporters, taking pictures of police officers beating people black and blue and all sorts of things like that. And once that gets out, I mean, just the amount of human empathy. Even if it's someone you're maybe not inclined to like, it's like, okay, maybe we need to rethink this. We've got a problem in this corner. But also the way he dealt with his own people, because part of the letter to Birmingham jail was mostly about there were some people who they should have been on his side. I think they were religious people, sort of in his community. And after he had done a particular protest, they were like, nobody listened to him. He's stupid. We will negotiate with the government peacefully, and we will not do whatever he's doing because he's stupid. And it was basically, I think that the letter was mostly written to them. And just the way, because he gave them a serious thrashing. It's like, how can you stand, this is one of those like, how can you stand by while the rest of us are burning sort of thing, It's not like I'm sitting by in a cushy place. I'm only writing to you because I have nothing else to do because I'm sitting here in prison and, I would be doing something else, but I'm stuck in prison. But at the very end, it's so great because it was like, I don't remember exactly the quote, but it was something like, yeah, if this offended you, I'm sorry. It was very genuine. I know I didn't sound genuine there, but it was very genuine. If this offended you, I apologize for that. obviously, I'm kind of cooped up here in prison and going crazy. And, you know, you guys are still genuinely good people. It was amazing. It's awesome. And make my escape.
End the video there.
Oh, they can't
no, keep
see
going,
you.
keep
They
going.
can't
This
see
is
that
great.
you were turned around. That would be a lot funnier if they knew you were turned around.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just me like stop talking and looking and then bolting. Okay, but yeah, Martin Luther. I just love the way because that's so effective and that's so smart and that's so awesome. Where he was like, I don't know if I could do that. I apologize that you're stupid. He didn't say it like that, obviously, but you know, this is kind of what I imagine might be going through his head, or maybe he's genuinely empathetic. It's hard to tell, but obviously he was willing to go through with that statement. You know, the I apologize. You know, maybe it's because I've growing cobwebs in my brain. I've been stuck in here for too long. But please, there should be a little bit of urgency in this. Let's keep moving forward and let's just move on from this. Which is, yeah, now Martin Luther King is like my favorite example of a leader because, you know, we read about like Steve Jobs and, ugh.
Yeah,
like,
tell me about that. Actually,
Steve Jobs. He didn't look around. I was trying to.
My sister was in the background.
Sorry.
No,
But yeah, Steve Jobs. Obviously, he made something amazing. I probably couldn't do it. Actually, I would say he helped make something amazing. He obviously didn't do it by himself at the same time. But yeah, in charge of this team, he was kind of brutal. It was, at least according to the book, he was. I would almost say he was abusive. I mean, obviously, he didn't like kick or punch anyone, but he was very. You were either the worst person in the world or you're the best thing that ever happened. And he couldn't express the words, tell me why this is a good idea. Instead, he would insult the idea until you would maybe defend it or quit the job. At least that was from my understanding. And it was just, like, I can't imagine that won you any friends in the workplace. Like, I can't imagine why they would want to keep you around. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's why he got fired. But anyways, yeah, it's like that's not a long-lasting way to deal with people. Obviously, he got the job done. It's very successful. I was able to push people into doing things that maybe they couldn't have done before without a level of inspiration. But I mean, obviously, Martin Luther King was not any less strict in some ways because he had a very set vision for how he wanted these religious people to act, how they should be supporting him. He was very, like I said, he brought the fire down on them pretty good in the letter, but at the same time, he definitely cared about them in some sense, and he didn't want to become their enemies, and he didn't want to he wasn't looking for gold, if that's the right way to put it, because I feel like that's what Steve Jobs was doing, is he was looking for gold. You know, he's hitting all the rocks, and only the good ones were going to be gold in the end. The rest were going to be broken and leave. And Martin Luther King was just trying to work with everyone. I mean, obviously, I feel like Martin Luther King would have been happy to work with anyone who would have worked with him. And so he was using what he had, and he probably I feel like he would have made a lasting relationship with those people. You know, something that, you know, years down the line he can be like, remember that time we did the passive protest over there? And they'd be like, yeah, that was great, man.
Yeah.
But Steve Jobs, I can't imagine being like, hey, remember that time we made the Mac device? Yeah, you called my piece of work a piece of junk. Oh, okay. You know, it just doesn't feel like something you should be happy about at the end of the day. But I definitely liked how compassionate Martin Luther King was, even though he was unyielding in his ideals of others at the same time.
perfect. I think we're good. This has been great. Once again, this is Brigham, also B Flummy on YouTube. He is an ENFJ, and okay, everybody, I'm coming back really quick. Look at this. Look at this.
It's not good. I need one
Just
mana.
last turn. Okay, look at this. He has 3 mana, and he's brought out this much stuff. Now,
That's nothing.
yes, and he's complaining that it is nothing,
Still have
which
4 cards in my hand.
because he has other cards which could do
each
far worse.
Cost 5 to put down.
Now, granted, I have this much. You know, it's reasonable. You can't really see it. That's fine. But the point is, he had this man right here. He had 5 life. I was mowing him down because I've got 2 flying creatures now. And then he plays this card. He's been milling me this whole time. That's the only thing he's been able to do. And then he plays this card, and it turns out that I've got 8 creature cards in my graveyard. And so he gains 24 life in one fell swoop. This man
It's not gonna work. I'm gonna
really,
die.
I mean, maybe he will, but I'm really just kind of impressed now. This is the worst video ever.